Hey everyone, it's Mari. Thanks so much for stopping by my channel today. I have a card making process for you, and I'm going to start off here with this piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock. And this is actually a piece of paper that was originally 11 by 17 that I cut down to 12 and 3/4 by 5.5. And what I'm doing here is I'm just scoring this paper in two places at 4.25. So there's going to be two folds, and when the card all folds up, it's going to be a 4.25 by 5.5 card. So I'm just going to take these score lines and I'm going to fold along them here. I'm going to use my bone folder to make a nice smooth crease there, and you'll just see me going through that process here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some dies from Simon Says Stamp called the Arch Stitching Borders. And what I'm going to do with that one die from that set is I'm going to create a scalloped edge on the front flap of this card. So you'll see me doing that right away here once I'm done folding these over. So you're going to have two flaps for this card when it's all finished. If you were to choose to make this, it is actually kind of cool. It's a little bit different, and it's just kind of a little bit interactive in that way. So you can see that there's a front flap that folds over the other, and I'm just going to take that now. I'm going to take this die from this set that I'm showing you here. That is that arched stitching border set that I mentioned. And I'm going to tape the die down there just across that one flap to create that little bit of a border on that front flap. So I'm just going to take a little bit of micro pour tape, and I am going to tape down my die, and then I'm going to run it through my Big Shot and create that scalloped edge. So I'll just tape that on there and fold it all out so that it's just in a single layer and run that through my Big Shot. Now what I did was I just took a piece of the Lawn Fawn Really Rainbow patterned paper, and what I did was I just cut it out using a stitched rectangle. I think that was maybe my favorite thing, stitched rectangle. And I'm going to use that on the front of the other flap. So I'm just going to adhere that down with a little bit of Tombow Mono adhesive. And once I've got that in place, I'm actually going to start to do a little bit of Distress Oxide ink blending on the other side of the card on that other front flap. This is the stamp set that I'm going to be using today, and it's called Beautiful Day, and it's from Simon Says Stamp. I'm going to be using the stamps and the dies that go along with that collection. Now what I want to do is I'm going to take a bunch of different Distress Oxide inks. I'm going to start off here with Shaded Lilac. I'm going to use some Broken China, some Peacock Feathers, some Cracked Pistachio, some Squeezed Lemonade, Twisted Citron, Worn Lipstick, and Abandoned Coral. Yes, I am actually going to use all of those colors, I do believe. And I'm going to just blend those across this piece of Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. And then I am going to stamp on top of those. So I don't have one of those different blending tools for every single color of Distress Oxide ink. I just have, what I do is I tape the foam blender on the bottom of the Distress Oxide pad, and I just use the same blending tool for each one of the different pads. So you can just see me here, I'm just taking the different colors there. It does take a little bit longer when you don't have a handle for each one of the different colors, but I don't. So this is the best scenario for me since I don't have all those different. I actually just don't have enough spots to store all of those different handles. So it's just easier for me just to have the one and switch up the foam ends there. So you can see I'm just going in with all the different colors and just blending them in and just kind of creating a little bit of a rainbow of colors here. And then I'm just going to stamp those butterfly images over top, and then my butterfly images will have sort of like a combination of different colors in them, and I like how that looks. So just going to continue that process here, and then when that's all finished, I'm going to take some VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I'm going to just stamp these out using a block. And you'll just see me stamping a couple of these, but then I do the rest of the stamping off camera, and I really like how these look when they're all finished. They're very pretty. And this is just a really gorgeous stamp set, and it has a lot of really nice sentiments on it too. So I just really wanted to try this out today and create just sort of like a really springy, fun nice and colorful kind of card. Now I'm just going to take some Post-it tape and I'm going to tape off that front flap because I want to do some Distress Oxide ink blending on that front flap as well. And I'm just going to use a few of the colors here for this. I'm not going to use all of the colors that I used for the butterflies. I'm going to use, I think I'm going to just use Twisted Citron and Squeezed Lemonade. I think I'm going to use Abandoned Coral and Worn Lipstick on this front. So you'll just see me going in and blending those different colors together, just going back and forth and blending a little bit of one color and then another color, and then going back with some of the other colors again and blending over top of the same areas just to blend the colors together. And I love working with these Distress Oxide inks. They are so much fun and they are just really, really nice to work with on this Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. They blend so nicely and it's just a pleasure to work with them. So you can see I'm just darkening up those colors a little bit, making them just a little bit more vibrant and blending them together a little bit. And then what you'll see me doing is just adding a little bit of water to them. So I'm just going to take a little bit of water in my hand and splatter that onto that front flap. And then I'll just take a little bit of paper towel and dab up that excess moisture. And then that just creates a little bit of that distressed look. Now I've cut this little banner here from the Newton's Nook Frames and Flags die set. And I'm going to stamp my sentiment on this little flag. And you'll just see me taking the VersaFine ink and I'm going to stamp the sentiment "I adore you" on there, and then I'm just going to put a little bit of black embossing powder on there as well, and I'll heat the embossing powder up to create that black sentiment on the front of my card. And this is just some black embossing powder that I have in my stash, and it's probably Stampin' Up. I used to be a Stampin' Up demonstrator quite a few years ago now, and I still have lots of Stampin' Up stuff. I've got lots of the inks and lots of just little bits and pieces still of the Stampin' Up supplies, and this is one of the Stampin' Up embossing powders that I have in my stash. So I'm just going to get a really nice coat of that black embossing powder on there. I'm going to melt that up, and that is going to give just a really nice crisp black sentiment on the front of my card. So now that that's all nicely cleaned up, and now I'm just melting that. I'll just quickly do that. I like to make sure that my heat tool is nice and hot, so I usually start it up before I'm ready to actually do the embossing so that it will melt pretty quickly. And now I'm just going to take some more of that Tombow Mono, and I'm going to glue this banner to the front of my card, and it'll just stick over top of that flap, that scalloped edge slightly. I really love this glue because it allows me a little bit of time to just make sure that I have that piece in the right spot. And I'm eventually going to take a black gel pen, and I'm going to do a little bit of fake stitching in black around the edges of that banner just to define the edges of the banner a little bit and give a little more detail to it. Now you can see that I've die cut those butterflies, and I'm going to just stick those on in 3 different places on the front of the card. And I believe I'm just using a little bit of foam adhesive. I think I used some Stampin' Up foam dots to adhere those down to the front of my card just to give them a little bit of dimension. And I'm going to add that other one up to the top of the card. And I'm going to do a little bit of embellishing with the front of my card using some sequins from my stash and a little bit of some gold stickles as well. So I'm just going to take some gold stickles and add them to some of the little spaces on each of the butterflies, just to give those butterflies a little bit of extra sparkle. And I like how that looks. So I'm just going to take that and add that in. This is just a really simple and quick way to add some really nice dimension and detail to your card. And it actually doesn't take the stickles that long to dry. They dry pretty quick. And so usually what I do is I'll put the stickles on and I'll set the project aside for a little bit, and then I'll do a little bit of cleanup in my craft room and my table while I'm waiting for that to dry. So at this point, I've got all those distress inks out and a bunch of other things on my table that need to be put away that I don't need for the rest of the process. So I usually take that time to go ahead and get some of that cleanup done. And then usually by the time I'm finished with that, the stickles are pretty much dry and I can continue working on the rest of the project. So I've got that all done now, and I'm going to add some sequins from my stash. And these are some sequins that I've had in my stash for a really long time. I think I got those in a hip kit a while back. I think they maybe were some Amy Tangerine sequins. And I just really like how they looked on this card. And I just added a little bit of gold stickles to the center of each one of those sequins. And I'm going to take the remainder of those butterflies that I used to, that I colored with the Distress Oxide inks, and I'm going to adhere those to the inside of the card. And that's just kind of a nice little additional detail to the inside of the card. And I'm also going to add some stickles to those little butterflies as well. Now, as I was looking at my card, I was thinking, you know, I really love, I'm just showing you where I'm going to put the sentiment on the inside there. I really love the way that rainbow pattern paper is looking, but I thought maybe it was just a little bit too dark or something. I wasn't sure. So I just wanted to try another color and see if there was a color that maybe I liked just as much or maybe even more. So this is the other color. This is also from Lawn Fawn, and it's one of the spring, it's the spring plaid 6x6 pad. So tell me in the comments below which pattern paper you like better. Do you like the plaid or do you like the rainbow? I'm not sure. I'm going to put the plaid one on there with a little bit of repositionable adhesive so that I can take it off. And you let me know what you think I should do for the inside of this card. I think maybe I might just make another one and use the plaid on a second card, but still let me know which one you like. This is the pad that plaid came from, and I really love this. It's so pretty. Anyways, guys, that's my card for today. Thanks so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. And come back another time, and I'll see you. Have an amazing day.